To be a real football fan, you have to be a little delusional. Many times the truth is staring you right in the face, but because of where your loyalties lie, you choose to ignore them and believe something else entirely. Well, not anymore. Today, we're going to be giving you some really hard pills to swallow. These are 7 hard truths everyone is afraid to admit this season. Football's more than a game. It's passion, pride, glory. This World Cup season, Goal 90 brings you our biggest offer yet. Buy 3 jerseys and get 1 free. That's 4 jerseys for the price of 3. And yes, free worldwide shipping. This is a limited time World Cup special only until April the 30th. So move fast. Pick your jerseys. Wear your passion. Own the moment before they're gone. Visit Goal 90 Shop. Link in the description. First of all, Arsenal has been the best club in Europe over the course of the 25-26 season. A lot of people have found it hard to actually embrace this fact, but it doesn't change the fact that it is the truth. Over the course of the entire campaign, no team in Europe has been better than Arsenal. They are one of the only teams who started the season really strong and are finishing strong. PSG may look terrifying right now, but we all know that they weren't so good at the beginning of the season. Heck, they even finished outside the Champions League top 8, while Arsenal won all 8 of their league phase games and went all the way to the Champions League final without losing a single game in the tournament. The likes of Man City and Barcelona can't even make a real argument. They can compete for the most entertaining team, but they just have not been as consistent as Arsenal this season. The only team that really comes close is Bayern Munich, but they have the advantage of playing in a much weaker league, which they monopolise. And even then, when these two teams went head-to-head this season, Arsenal came out on top. So if you say that they're tied for the best teams in the current campaign, that head-to-head game should be the tiebreaker. And yeah, we spoke about PSG some moments ago, and obviously what Luis Enrique has been able to do with that team over the last 2 seasons is very commendable. But the truth? He won't be able to replicate this in the Premier League. The man is a top tactician for sure, but the lack of competition in Liga 1 has benefited him so much. First of all, he has an abundance of resources at his disposal at PSG, so he's able to get any top quality player he wants. And if any of them don't work, he can throw them to the bench and go out and get another one in the very next window. On top of that, they have the luxury of being able to rest almost the entire squad in league games and still win the title. In the Premier League, you just won't be able to do that. You also would not be able to get your league games postponed just so players can get rest ahead of Champions League games. These are the privileges Luis Enrique is greatly benefiting from by being in the French league. For 2 seasons now, PSG have started the season shakily but kicked into gear halfway into the season. So when other teams across leagues are tiring out, they're coming in fresh and hot. In the Premier League, you just cannot afford to take half a season off and still expect to be anywhere near the summit in the 2 major competitions. I mean, look at Atletico Madrid for example. They rested players for La Liga games, basically sacrificing their league ambitions in order to have their best players fresh for the Champions League games. But they ended up losing everything in the end. It's really simple. In tougher and more competitive leagues, you just don't have that luxury. And we know some people would say that Enrique already did it in Spain with Barcelona. But if you remember, with the greatest attacking trio the sport has ever seen, he only managed to get past the quarter-finals of the Champions League on 1 occasion. Now, that is the point that we're making. Anyway, speaking of Atletico Madrid leads us to our next hard truth. This is about as good as it gets with Diego Simeone at Atleti. Of course, he's done so much for the club and is perhaps their greatest ever manager, but it simply cannot get better than this for him. It doesn't matter how much the board backs him or how much he spends in the transfer windows, he just cannot get the team past this point. Every once in a while, he'll win a league title, maybe a Europa League, and make a deep run in the Champions League. But we just don't see him achieving any sort of consistency at the top level or even winning the Champions League with this team, no matter how much he spends. And this is not us trying to talk down on what he's done. Looking at where he picked Atleti from, he has certainly done an amazing job with them. But the hard truth is that he's reached his very limit as a coach. It's now up to the club to decide if they want to accept that this is as good as it will get and be comfortable with it, or if they want to shake things up by letting him go and getting someone they think could possibly take them to the next level. But one team that looks sure to go to the next level really soon is Man United. Hate it or love it, it really does look like the Red Devils are back, and the fact is that they will be in the title race next season if Michael Carrick stays on as coach. The amount of transformation Carrick has been able to achieve in such a short time is so commendable. And if you remember, he already gave us a glimpse of what he could do in his first interim stint and was also great at Middlesbrough, so this is surely no fluke. He understands the United way and knows how important it is to win. He knows how to keep things simple, platform his best players and bring the best out of them. And we believe that that will be enough to put United in a title race next season. Will they win it? Well, you can never tell, but from what we've seen from them this season, they actually can. Carrick having a pre-season and bringing in some of his own players this summer, in addition to what he already has, could really propel the team to something incredible next season. Still in the Premier League, let's talk about the reigning champions, Liverpool. I mean, they are still the reigning champions for a couple more weeks. They had a terrible season, of course, and we think that it's down to one simple fact. The quality of players Liverpool lost superseded that of the ones they brought in the summer. It's crazy that we're saying this after the club spent about €500 million last summer, but it's nothing but the truth. They brought in Isak, Wirtz, Ekitike, Frimpong, Leone, Kirkez and Mamadashvili last summer. But just look at the caliber of players they lost. Trent, Luis Diaz and Kelleher alone feel like such huge and irreplaceable losses. And then when you consider the fact that Isak and Leone have barely played this season, it sort of makes you miss Darwin Núñez and Quansah a little. And of course, we can't forget the unfortunate passing of Diogo Jota. You can say that it's a mixture of awful misfortune, bad luck, and bad scouting. But the fact is that there's just a golfing quality in what came in and what left Liverpool last summer. Next, we're going to Catalonia to give the Blaugranas a really bitter pill. Barcelona might have to get rid of Hansi Flick in order to win the Champions League again. Yes, the German is a top coach, and he's been able to restore Barcelona's status as a top team to be feared. But the truth is that his stubbornness and unwillingness to adapt, even just a little bit, has stopped the team from going all the way in back-to-back seasons now. Barcelona are often better than their opponents, but their style of play always throws a lifeline to the opponents. These teams know that they just have to focus on beating Barcelona's offside trap and they could get something out of the game. You just cannot always get away with expecting your attackers to score 6 to 8 goals over 2 legs to get through to the next round of the Champions League. Conceding 7 goals to that Inter Milan side last season felt like a crime. Barcelona were obviously the better side in both games, but the offside trap meant that Inter always had a route to goal. And then when Rafinha got that goal in the 87th minute, Flick should have been smart enough to instruct his players to lock shop and see out the game. But he still insisted on the super high line, and that cost them a place in the final. It was the same thing this season. An ordinary Atleti side knocked Barcelona out of 2 competitions this season, and it was really down to Hansi Flick's style, always leaving the defence exposed. It was the setup that led to the red cards and the goals in the Champions League and Copa del Rey games. If only Flick had adapted just a little bit, Barcelona would have made the final last season, and at the very least, the semis this season. If he continues to be this stubborn, we just don't see how Barcelona can return to being champions of Europe with him at the helm. And we hear that they have their eyes on Julian Alvarez, so let's talk about him next. Hard truth? Alvarez looks like he's about to have a disappointing career very similar to that of Antoine Griezmann. Recognised as one of the best talents of his generation, but never really reaching the absolute top because Atleti held him back. But just like Griezmann, at least he would always have the World Cup trophy to fall back on. And the similarities just may not end there. Alvarez could move to Barcelona for big money, flop there, and then find his way back to Atleti after a few years. But we'll admit that this is not an exact replica, as Alvarez already has a European treble in the bag. But looking at what he's capable of, it would still be a massive disappointment if his career were to end this way, with trophyless season after trophyless season at Atleti. Well, it's now time to hear from you guys. Do you agree with the points that we've made in this video today? For you, what is the hardest truth everyone seems afraid to admit this season? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so that you never miss out on new content. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.